All right, welcome to your threat briefing for October. We're going to distill all the latest intel into some really actionable insights for you. This month, we're looking at a massive infrastructure exposure. We've got the dramatic return of a ransomware giant and a really dangerous speed up from state-sponsored spies. The whole landscape is shifting, and it's shifting fast. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with just a single number, over 266,000. Now, this isn't just some random statistic. This really represents the single biggest, most immediate threat we saw this month, and it hits right at the core of how the internet works. So what is that number? Well, it's the number of F5 big IP network devices, the kind of critical hardware that really is the backbone of the internet, that right now have their management interfaces just sitting out there, exposed. And after a recent source code theft from F5, this isn't just some potential problem down the road, it is a wide open door for attackers right now. Now, in exposure that massive, well, that's basically a playground for cybercriminals. So let's zoom in on one of their most profitable ventures, the world of digital extortion. This is a multi-billion-dollar illicit economy, and we're about to see who was really running the market this month. Okay, here's our ransomware leaderboard for October. The Keelan Group is still holding that #1 spot with over a quarter of the market share. But, the big story isn't at the top. Check out the group that just reappeared at #4. CLOP. Their comeback, after months of being totally silent, is a really significant development. And when I say comeback, I mean it was explosive. After going completely dark, they suddenly claimed 18 victims in just 3 weeks. This is not a minor player, folks. This is a group that's linked to over $500 million in extortion payments. Their return signals a major shift in how ransomware works. And this is the tactic that's changing the whole game. For years, the mantra has always been backups, 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 right? But with what we're calling encryptionless ransomware, groups like CLOP, they don't even need to lock your files anymore. They just steal your most sensitive data and threaten to leak it to the world. And just like that, your backup strategy is no longer a silver bullet. So, who's in the crosshairs? Well, the data points right to the industrial and financial backbone of our economy. Manufacturing, financial services, construction, retail, they're all top targets. And these are not random attacks. They are surgically aimed at the sectors that simply cannot afford any downtime. And this next point, man, this shatters a huge misconception. We always hear about the big corporate breaches on the news, but the reality is that small businesses are the ones getting hammered. A staggering 77% of attacks are aimed at organizations with 500 or fewer employees. And that's largely because ransomware as a service has made it so cheap and easy for even low-skilled criminals to get in on the action. Okay, so let's pivot. We've talked about criminals motivated by cash. Now let's move into the shadowy world of state-sponsored threats, where the prize isn't just money, it's intelligence, it's geopolitics. This is really a tale of two totally different adversaries. On one side, you've got Star Blizzard, a group linked to Russian intelligence, focused on pure espionage. They're using sophisticated spear phishing to get inside Western think tanks and defense firms. On the other side, you have a group like UNC 5142. They're all about the money, and they're weaponizing the blockchain to hit vulnerable websites. Two very different motives. But the key takeaway here with Star Blizzard is their speed, their tempo. When their last piece of malware was exposed, they didn't go hide in a corner. Nope, they hit the accelerator, and they rapidly deployed new tools, like this one called Maybe Robot. As Google's threat intelligence group has noted, they're attacking faster and more aggressively than ever before. That signals a major shift in their intelligence gathering strategy. Okay, so we've met the players and we get what drives them. Now, let's pop the hood and look inside their toolbox. What are the specific vulnerabilities and malware families that are powering all these attacks right now? So, of all the vulnerabilities and all the patches that were released in the past few weeks, there was one that stood out as the single most urgent threat, the one that made everyone drop what they were doing. What was it? The answer is this one, CVE 2025-59287, a critical flaw in Microsoft's Windows Server Update service. And just think about the irony of that for a second. The very system that's designed to deliver security patches was itself dangerously vulnerable. This thing was so severe, Microsoft had to issue an emergency out-of-band update. So what makes this flaw so dangerous? It's just how ridiculously easy it is to exploit. An attacker needs no username, no password, nothing. They can just hit a vulnerable server from anywhere on the internet, trigger the flaw, and boom, they have complete control with the highest possible privileges. It is a textbook case of a total, unauthenticated takeover. And, beyond that one major flaw, there's this trend of increasingly clever malware. We're seeing stuff like the Odyssey stealer on Macs, which is actually signed with a valid Apple developer ID, basically tricking macOS into thinking it's safe. Then you've got malware like Glassworm and ClearShot that are using the Solana blockchain for their command and control. That makes them incredibly resilient, almost impossible to take down. So we've covered a lot of ground, from ransomware crews to state spies, critical vulnerabilities. Now let's try to connect all the dots. What are the big strategic takeaways you need to be aware of? Here are the 4 key trends that really defined this period. First, extortion is not just about encryption anymore, it's about data theft. Second, state-sponsored actors are moving faster and faster. Third, criminals are using decentralized tech like the blockchain to build infrastructure that's way more resilient. And finally, the software supply chain itself, from code signing certificates to developer tools, that is the new frontline. And all of this, it really leads us to one critical question. As the attackers get more resilient, more complex, more evasive, we have to ask ourselves, are our defenses evolving fast enough to keep pace? And that's the question I'll leave you with. Thanks for joining the briefing.